Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time, Drumline. Through subtext, you could tell that the movie is presenting the main character, Devin Miles, played by Nick Cannon, to be a super high-functioning autistic person, and that the movie is trying to show you how to integrate people on the spectrum into today's society. And to reiterate, I'm not the one saying that, the movie is. Welcome to another episode of Catching You Up with
Nadav, it's okay.
I'd like to thank the executive producer of this episode, David Finkel. Without his big baller support, I'd still be on 6th Street in downtown Austin, playing 3-card Monty Shuffle, trying to make a quick buck. But because of David, I'm not doing that. And if you'd like to support the show in the same way that David is, you could go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description below. Also, comment, rate, subscribe, share, right now. It all helps with the algorithm. Literally write anything you want in the comment section, except for hate speech. Fade in. Interior. High school graduation. It's daytime. The film starts off with Devin Miles' graduation, played by Nick Cannon. Devin is in the band of his high school and is performing at his own high school graduation. In the middle of their rendition of I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly, separate the art from the artist, Devin, the band leader, kind of goes off script, and they start performing a way doper version of the song. The teacher seems to be annoyed but goes along with it. Textbook autism? Some of these kids on the spectrum are really good at music. Sometimes other stuff, like math or history. Devin wraps up his graduation, kisses his mom, and tells him that he'll be right back. And she's like, "Where the fuck are you going? We're having a graduation party at the place." So he goes, "I'll be right there, mother." He goes to the subway station where his father appears to work. He's been scoping out the place for a couple weeks like a real psycho. But he goes up to him, tells him who he is, and starts just listing off all of his accomplishments, like straight up like in a list. And he tells him that he just got accepted into a real prominent music school without his help, and how proud he is of himself for doing that without his father's help, and that he came there to tell him that. And he did that literally the second he graduated. And that is wildly autistic. You already know where he works. He's gonna be there tomorrow. But anyways, it's a real feel-good moment. Then he's on a short bus, which is confirmation for the film's true meaning, and not some crazy theory I came up with on my own, with a bunch of other autistic kids to be dropped off at a non-autistic music school, aka society. And let me tell you, these kids are all over the spectrum. Am I allowed to say that? Is that word bad to say yet? All right, we'll bleep it moving forward. They get off the bus, and Devin immediately starts spitting game at the chick from Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 through 3, but immediately gets shut down. This shows that the film is trying to show you that, people on the spectrum have basic human needs just like the rest of us. And that's something that people forget sometimes. And in fact, no one has reminded us of that fact since Netflix came out with Love on the Spectrum. It's hard to think that this kid really needs anything else other than super expensive around-the-clock care. They then get indoctrinated into the music program, which is actually kind of like a military program. This will soon prove to be an analogy for like a conversion therapy type of thing, but instead of them converting gay people to be not gay, they're trying to convert autistic people into being functioning members of society. I'm not saying that. The movie is. And this shows you the first method in which society tries to integrate this protected class into Gen Pop. Just throw them in, it'll be fine. It won't. Devin immediately gets ripped into and gets taught a lesson about basic human empathy. He gets a real ear beating by Dr. Lee, played by the very talented Orlando Jones, for being self-centered and not a team player. This is a good lesson for not autistic people too. Is this music program going to be the father that Devin never had? Will it make him not autistic? Spoiler alert, no to both of those questions. We start learning about the culture of each section of the marching band. Trumpets, tubas, saxophones, and of course, the one that Devin is in, snare. Then there's the push-up scene, which I feel like if all of you know Drumline the way I do, you're like, oh shit, I remember that scene from the trailer. They're honestly really representing everyone on the spectrum here, and for 2002, I think that's extremely progressive. Devin has another altercation with his band leader in the locker room. Not good. This shows how teaching autistic people isn't really a one-size-fits-all. You gotta go case by case and tailor your curriculum if you want this conversion therapy to work. Again, this is a metaphor that not me, but the makers of Drumline are making. Then there's the drumming scene, which I know sounds vague right now, but if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Playing the drums, it's like making love.
Now, I'm not sure if this scene was intended to show you the wrong way to seduce an autistic person, or if it's just making a tangent and showing you how unwanted sexual advances just kind of makes everyone uncomfortable. The band leader has all of his drummers kind of stand in a line, and he goes drummer by drummer, and he starts like drumming along with them, and he's explaining how drumming is a lot like fucking. And then he just kind of proceeds to just start fucking all of them. He's fucking all the guys, which is weird. He's fucking the girl, which is weird. He tries to fuck Nick Cannon, but he's forgetting. Nick Cannon fucks like the best of them. And that's just kind of showing you that the film is just kind of stating, hey guys, autistic people know how to throw it down, dude. But Dr. Lee sees this and he's just like, hey man, this Devin kid has way too much autistic hubris to be fucking this confidently.
Instead of making Sean look bad, you made yourself look like a jackass. Let's take this from the top, and this time follow me. Don't look down, remember?
Dr. Lee is showing Devin what 40 plus years of autistic sexual prowess can do for you. And they're all just sucking and fucking each other. In terms of drums, of course. Honestly, really fucking weird scene, but moving on. Then there's a bit where they try to trick Devin into buzzing his hair because he didn't read the rule book, but he is very not down. He's like, don't fucking buzz me, bro. But then he comes around and shows that peer pressure actually works pretty well on autistic people. Honestly, peer pressure works pretty well on non-autistic people too. Then there's auditions, where Nick Cannon plays his audition piece and he gets first place judged by, I don't know, the fucking seniors in the parking lot that honked once, which is code for like, this guy's first place. The band leader is suspicious on how Devin was able to memorize such a complicated piece for an audition. And Dr. Lee just says, hey, why don't you calm down and, let this guy shine a little bit. Fast forward to a practice and we see exactly how Devin is able to memorize these complicated pieces. He's autistic as shit. Now look at this footage. I'm not slowing it down at all. This is exactly how it was in the movie. I bet if you talk to 1 million drummers, none of them would tell you that that's how they learn drums. Then there's a big game, and the band leader decides to let Devin be on the front lines or whatever during halftime. And it goes okay. A little bumpy, but okay. The film is stating, hey, there's a right way to integrate autistic people into society and a wrong way. Don't rush it. You might think it's a good idea and it might work once or twice, but it will backfire on you. It's going to blow up in your face eventually if you don't figure out a way to harness this chaos. And that's the movie's message, not mine. Then we go back to the B story of the movie and we realize like, oh yeah, he's been hollering at that chick from Guardians of the Galaxy. They go to a frat party together and we see her kind of stomp the dance floor with her and her sorority sisters. This shows you that you could quite easily seduce autistic people with a couple stomps, hip shakes, and hisses, but in all honesty, that would work on non-autistic people too. They make out, and this is interesting. Even though she's not on the spectrum, the film is saying if you're putting effort into courting someone like that and they respond well to it, then it's actually okay. There's another big game and they let Devin on the front lines again. And surprise, surprise, this one doesn't end up as good as the first one. That's right. Bench is cleared. Everyone's fucking fighting. And this embarrasses everyone. This embarrasses Devin's coach, his team. It embarrasses his girlfriend, and because of this, she decides to not introduce him to his parents. She realizes that she fucked up and that kind of wasn't like a cool thing to do, so she tries to approach him at the cafeteria. And he says something to the extent of, "If you can't handle me at my most autistic, you don't deserve me at my least autistic." And I think we can all relate to that. Turns out we all have the same feelings. So yeah, Dr. Lee kicked him off the team. He's just all sorts of sad now. His coach is mad at him. His girl is mad at him for him being mad at her, for her being mad at him. It's just a tough time to be Devin right now. He then considers switching drum teams, which is code for him not only being autistic, but dabbling in homosexuality. He's like, I'm already autistic. Why don't I try being gay too? He quickly learns that the other team wants him to do things that he's not quite comfortable with. Classic case of someone who thought they were gay, but then quickly realized they weren't. While on timeout, he just starts listening to like old classic tapes and drumming along to them and, you know, fucking and sucking guys on the side. Not like in the metaphorical sense. Like, I'm pretty sure it's implied that he is fucking guys during this part of the movie.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But he's basically just retracting into his autistic homosexuality and trying to figure himself out. I forgot to mention, but at some point in the movie, the band leader makes it very clear that Devin is unable to read music.
Play that. That's the music for next week's game, and you can't read it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a very big deal.
So during his time out, he's just learning music, trying to learn all these rhythms, fucking and sucking all the guys that he can. And then he tries to practice, but he runs into his old band leader while he's there. His band leader tricks him into going full autistic, and he didn't tell him this, but he tricked him into doing it because he was recording everything. But when he printed out the music that they were playing, he shows him, he's like, look at this. Look at what you're playing. This is so much more complicated than the stuff that we ask you to do. But that's the thing, Devin. You're too autistic to do drums with us, man. You're just too autistic. And this is one of the only times where tricking Devin didn't end in a riot. But maybe there's a lesson in there somewhere. After that connection, they both become friends. They immediately go to Dr. Lee's office and they're like, Dr. Lee, look at how well we've weaponized Devin's autism. Look! And then they show him the sheet or whatever and they're just like, autism! Everyone's pretty stoked about it. Then Devin sees one of the D-list idiots practicing in the cage. He teaches him how to be better at his job. And this is just trying to show you that, you know, if you just teach one of these autistic people how to do better at what they do, they could talk to the more autistic people and get them to do a better job at what they do for us. And that's a pretty cool lesson. And look, these aren't my ideas or arguments. The makers of this movie have left a trail of breadcrumbs for us to figure this out on our own. Flash forward to the big music finals. The big opposing school, aka homosexuality, and Devin's music school throws such a good performance that the judges decide that it's actually a tie between Devin's school and the gay school. So they make them go into a drum off, and Dr. Lee says, hey man, you've proven you're part of the team. Why don't you go suit up? I want you in the drum line. Why don't you go show them what we're made of? So they send him in. They have an intense drum off, and Devin and his school end up winning. And it just kind of comes to show you that the real meaning of this movie is we don't need to separate these autistic people out of society. You just kind of need to show them the difference between right and wrong, and that just because you're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons doesn't make it okay. You need to do the right thing for the right reasons. And I think that that's a message that even non-autistic people could learn. Did you like that movie review? If you did, let me know what other movies you would like me to review next time. And with that, that concludes another episode of Catching You Up with
Nadav, it's go, it's.
And I'd also like to thank everyone whose names that you're seeing on screen right now. They're all producers of this show. Without their help, it'd be much harder for me to consistently put these out. If you would like to become a producer of the show and show support, you can always scroll down to the description below and hit the Patreon link and support me at any level that you feel comfortable at. But now that I've said all that, honestly, The most important thing for me to really tell you is,
this is a totally unconfirmed news.
see you next week.